After midnight projection booth, ticket stub, promise on the projector. The Rialto after midnight keeps its promises the way old film does. Grainy, warm, pretending the scratches are part of the plan. The lobby smelled like butter that had learned diplomacy, and the cardboard standees had all agreed to watch without judgment. I pushed through the velvet curtain with my phone face down in my palm like a coin I wasn't ready to spend and slid it into my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home. The last patrons drifted toward the street like quiet credits. I stayed. Back home, Ben had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that means please stay now. Our couch auditions us for the worst parts when we sit at opposite ends. I left before either of us started improvising vows we'd resent by breakfast. Halfway down the stairs, my screen lit with a message from A. Ari in my contacts, A in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Booth lights on, just talk. The words behaved. The heat behind them didn't. By day, I fix other people's paragraphs. By night, I try not to turn my own into weapons. Ben and I have a code that works when we remember it. T means come here, you awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but don't go far. Ari re-entered orbit 2 months ago wearing denim that looked like a plan and a laugh that sounded like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. I took a seat in the final row, the kind with a view of exits and the door marked projection booth. The screen glowed with an end card that was more confession than advertisement. Minutes became a hallway. The booth's porthole window lit up, a square of patient light, and then Ari leaned into it, profile cut in brass. He tapped the glass twice, not a wave, a password. The booth door at the back of the house clicked and opened onto a short staircase that smelled like dust and electricity. "Late for you," he said when I reached him. His hands were clean, which always surprises me about men who touch machines. The projector purred behind him, a cat that had decided to keep the apartment. He held a stack of ticket stubs like a deck of small geographies and set them beside the take-up reel. "You always liked the booth," he added, mouth near a smile, near a dare. "You said it was the only room where the light does the touching. It's also the room where the lies have somewhere to be useful," I said, and hated that I sounded practiced. He nodded toward the metal stool by the spliced table. I sat. The projector's warm breath blew over my shoulder and found the place nerves keep for weather. Ari tore a fresh stub from the roll and set it on the table beside a grease pencil. "3 words," he said. "Back of the stub. Why are you here?" "3 words is cruel," I said. "That's why they work," he said, and slid the pencil toward me with 2 fingers, slow enough for Heat to understand its assignment. "No speeches in here. Film jams." I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller, touch before arguing. He read the words and didn't exhale for 1 heartbeat longer than he should have. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered a breath from my lapel the way a match hovers from training, and then he adjusted the corner of my collar with a care that had nothing to do with cotton. "Does he know?" he asked, not weaponizing the pronoun because he didn't have to. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said. The reel clicked as it found itself, a small domestic sound. Ari stepped closer as if the projector had pulled us into identical orbit. His breath reached my mouth before he did. He didn't kiss me then. He traced the top edge of my lower lip with his thumb like a man testing a fuse with faith instead of flame. The booth light breathed with us. My chest remembered the grammar for yes. "We could keep the real honest," he said softly. "We could say this is inspection, not projection." "Your metaphors are occupational hazards," I said, and leaned the inch that writes men into the kind they keep pretending to be. Our mouths met, not a collision but a decision, soft pressure that learned how to stay. He tasted like peppermint and a problem I had not earned. When his palm found the back of my neck and pressed only as hard as an honest thing should, a sound left me I'd deny to a polite audience. We didn't rush. The booth doesn't reward speed. His mouth found the hinge of my jaw. Mine found the place below his ear where regret loses vocabulary. His fingers slipped beneath my jacket and paused at my ribs, flat a second, listening, an unearned courtesy, then moved on, learning me with practical curiosity. The projector hummed in approval, throwing nothing against the screen but letting light be oxygen. He guided my hand down with the care of someone who respects tools. I closed my fingers and he exhaled into my mouth a truth nobody in the theater had paid for. He reached for me and I let him, the two of us staying quiet because walls prefer prose. The room kept our secret because the room had always planned to. After we rested forehead to forehead while breath remembered itself, heat climbed down into weather. I wanted to say I loved him the way boys want to jump from docks and prove they won't drown. I didn't. Ari didn't ask me to. We are both worse and better than that. We already cheated, he said, voice the temperature of light on metal. We cheated when we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home. I know, I said. He picked up the stub and folded it once. I booked a room, he said, like a weather report pretending not to be an opinion. We could stand at the window and not touch for 60 seconds just to prove we still know ceremony. We could hang the do not disturb and keep it honest. I'm tired of being clever, I said. Clever's my second shift, he said. Accurate can be yours. He took a small magnet from his pocket, a novelty shaped like a film reel, ridiculous and perfect, and set it on the table. He slid the stub under it like a witness he meant to protect. His hand stayed where it shouldn't a heartbeat longer than the city allows. He stepped back 1 inch, the moral distance men pass inspection with. Text me a weather report in the morning, he said. Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons. It usually does, I said, when we let it. We stood like that, two men having taken as much as they deserved and exactly more than they should have, the projector purring behind us as if it knew more about mercy than either of us could talk ourselves into. He lifted my wrist gently, thumb brushing the inside like a caller ID he didn't intend to use, and let it go. The booth clock ticked the same way clocks do when they have more to forgive than to announce. We could go downstairs, he said. We could sit in the final row and watch the exit sign teach us about honest verbs. We could be useful to the morning for a change. We could, I said. I'm going home. He nodded, careful again, exact again. He is cruel where he's kind and kind where he's cruel. He didn't ask me to change my mind. He opened the booth door and let me go first, the way you let a guest leave a confession without bumping their shoulder on the way out. The auditorium was nothing but seats and possible ghosts. I walked up the aisle silently and pushed through the velvet with a hand that had learned something. The lobby had already forgiven us. Outside, the city presented itself as a set of smaller questions. The kitchen light made a clean square on the tile when I got home. The fridge hummed the way machines hum when they've decided to believe you. Ben sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle over the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who are about to fix things. He didn't ask where I'd been. He turned his head slightly to mark the place beside him. I sat there like a man who has postponed a sentence and chosen verbs instead. Do you want to be asked? He said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. Please, I said, because prompts are scaffolding even when you've been building without permits. Are you lonely? He asked. Some nights, I said. Not here, not when you ask first, not when the kettle outruns the reasons. I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to make sure I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once and believed me. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." The kettle clicked like a postage stamp in a country that still believes in mail. We poured water over mint and called it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I took the stub from my pocket and pinned it under the film reel magnet on the fridge so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Ben read the words and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He picked up the dry erase marker from the cup and wrote beneath the magnet, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He nodded like a man, assembling a morning from honest screws. We made a rule that wasn't noble. When prosecution tried to wear a bathrobe, one of us would say projection booth and the other would put the kettle on while the first put his hands where history could find them. We agreed to 5 words when 5 were enough. We agreed to stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. We agreed to try to want what we promised, and when we didn't, we would write 3 words on small paper and tell the room. Days did the thing days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The stub in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late bus, I drafted messages to no one that began I didn't ask, because I thought that counted as kindness and ended "May your breakfast go right." I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from projectors that keep confidences and seats that don't remember names. A week later, when afternoon tried to be a test, I walked past the Rialto and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water inside the door with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." The usher nodded like a bridge that had held and would hold again. On the way home, I slipped a blank seat check into my pocket and wrote "Turn" toward your name across the clean side. I didn't light anything. That night we ate toast like it had been newly invented. We failed and failed differently and failed in ways that didn't require anyone to stand under a beam of light pretending to know which scene would save them. The room did not demand a verdict. The morning remembered its job. And when we said tomorrow out loud, it meant only what we let it mean.